Hi, everybody. My name is Donnie Patullo. Welcome. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Beacon Live. We are a webinar and continuing education platform, and we're honored to be joined today by some colleagues from Gotranscript and equality.ai to talk about web accessibility and what it means to you. So we're going to go around and do some brief introductions, and we'll get started. So Valerie, if you wouldn't mind, just a brief introduction about yourself and Gotranscript.
So my name is Valerie, and I'm Business Development Manager at Gotranscript. Gotranscript is a transcription, translation, subtitle, and captioning company. We offer human-generated services, and we offer 99% accuracy.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you very
And
much.
I guess
Very nice.
Ren, if you'd like to introduce yourself, go right ahead and tell us a little bit about Equality.
Thank you very much, Donnie. Thank you very much, Valerie. My name is Ron. I'm the CEO of Equally AI. At Equally AI, we provide a variety of web accessibility solutions to make websites compliant. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thanks for those introductions. That's great. Pleasure to have you here with us as well, and with everybody who's joining us online. We're going to start off, ask a couple questions, really just sort of set the stage. So maybe first question for Ran, how would you describe web accessibility in layman's terms? You once described it to me as a mall, and that was a nice overview. And so go right ahead and tell us a little bit about web accessibility in general terms.
Okay, so what is web accessibility? So think of a mall that a place where everyone wants to gather, watch a movie, buy some things. And in order to get to the mall, there are stairs, there is a ramp, there is an elevator. The idea that everyone can come and access, even if a person has a wheelchair. The same thing is for the digital world. If people can only access with a mouse, some people will not be able to access these websites. And the idea is that we need to give people more options to enjoy websites. So websites should be, for example, accessible with their keyboard, so they can navigate the website even if they can't use a mouse. And if people want to watch a video, they will be able to use the captions in order to hear the video because they have an hearing impairment. So the idea in general that as a mall, the same thing for the digital world, people should be able to access and enjoy whatever the ability they have. I hope it
That totally makes sense.
explained.
That's really good, Ren. Thank you. Yeah. I like the analogies that you use, and it is hard for some folks if you're hard of hearing or of visual issues or color blindness or any of those kind of things that we have to be mindful of when we're creating websites. In our world at Beacon Live, we essentially create websites for all of our customers when we run webinars or continuing education catalogs. And so while it's the customer's design, ultimately, we really like to work with them and help them present what's going to look and feel the best for a wide, diverse audience. So I think the way that you described it makes a lot of sense, at least to me. So Rand, let's pretend I already have a website or a webinar or a continuing education platform or catalog, and then I find out maybe it's not accessible in a particular way. Is it too late, or can I go back? How would I address that kind of problem?
So thank you, Donnie. It's a great question. So most companies that come to us, they already have a website and it's already not accessible. So this is basically, it's not the best time to come. It always think of accessibility in mind when you're starting a business, but it's not the case in most cases. So once you come up and you have a website, we can definitely, any company and equally AI can fix it and make it accessible. There are many ways that we can make, there are a few ways that we can make it accessible. It really depends on the strategy that you have in in place, because you need to think not just short term to just fix the problem. You need to think of a way to make sure that no matter how many changes the website go through, the website will continue to be compliant and accessible. And again, and second, your budget. There are ways to solve. There are ways that are more expensive, and there are other ways that are more affordable. So it again fit the business type. And third, there's a lot of companies that wants to make sure that accessibility is 100% all the time. So they can be there is ways that they can have training and learning how to use different type of accessibility tools to make sure that they ensure the compliance in the long term. So again, if we summarize it, there are many ways to become compliant, and there is no need to worry if the website is not accessible at the moment. You can always make it.
That's great. Ren, when you talk to your clients, who's the person at the company that you're typically engaging with? Is it like a chief technology officer? Is it more somebody in marketing? Is it a web developer? Who do you typically talk with?
So it really depends on the size of the business and the type of accessibility goal they have. So if it's like a company that just want to be compliant and they want to use one of our automated solutions, it will most likely come from the marketing department. Um, but if it's a company that wants to make sure that they're accessible in the source code, it's usually someone from the development department. And again, also services usually go from there. It's not, there is no one guy that usually take over the accessibility. But there is, like in big organization, it could be head of user experience, which is like a typical
Yep.
role that engage with this accessibility. Um,
That makes sense. Very good. Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I was just curious when you're kind of talking with different folks, or for people watching our webinar, who within their company might be the right person for them to go to if it's not them, to work with you. So that's great. Valerie, I kind of turned it over to you for a moment. When we talk with a lot of our customers, they ask about captions. That's kind of the quickest and easiest question that we get a lot of times where they're offering a webinar, maybe it's continuing education, things like that. And in the United States, at least, there's the American Disabilities Act, and they want to be compliant with that and offer to people who might not be able to hear the program the ability to see it. How do you guys deal with that, from your captioning services, subtitles, other transcripts and things like that? Tell us a little bit about how you deal with that.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, lots of always come to us to like actually ask for the service. And there are different industries, starting from legal, medical, just enterprise, and different industries that require that. Obviously, the most popular is the broadcast media, where actual movies, different companies like Netflix, HBO, and etc. They require such services because they need to actually have captions by default, and as well to have a subtitles to actually provide a translation for different audiences and reach different audiences. So it's not only about the accessibility, but it's also about actually reaching different countries by showing, let's say, US movies, and that are not speaking very well English. They want to have a translation available, such as subtitles. So also captions are needed for marketing companies, because let's say if they have a webinar on the website and they want to transcribe it, because they want to have it available on the website in a written format, so it's searchable on the internet. because you cannot search for a video only by the name, but by the keywords that are transcribed below. It will be easier to find such material, and the website will be reachable. So yeah, different things as such, and let's say even churches and their religious like institutions, they're looking for such service, because they transcribe even different recordings, and something that is related to religion is quite popular, because not only people not everyone can hear the material, but they also sometimes want to read and understand what is happening, let's say, within the church. So actually, as I said, it's more than just a website accessibility. It's actually making things comfortable. And by statistics, like almost 90% are watching videos on mute and only having captions, even though they can hear, they can see, they can actually do normal thing as the others. So yeah, that's more or less
Yeah,
about the caption and support services. Yeah.
that's a great summary. And, I didn't even think of the search, use case that you mentioned, where you can't search words in a video unless there are words with that video. So that's really good. And your point that 90% of people are watching video online and just reading the captions because they're watching it on mute, and it's not a hard of hearing or a visual impairment issue or anything like that. It's just maybe they're at work or want to be quieter and would prefer to read. That makes a lot of sense. You had mentioned earlier I think it was 99% accuracy. And I think we see a lot of times with some
Yeah.
of these captions that you read online or on different social media apps or things like that, if you have an accent or if it's a very technical term, or sometimes we'll see like in the pharmaceutical industry, they have really, difficult names for their products. The
Mhm.
automated captioning services don't do a great job. I don't know what their, percentage is, but for everyday stuff, it works good enough, I would say. But when you get to certain use cases, it's not. And that's where we really need to lean on partners like Gotranscript, and maybe just talk to us a little bit about that, the accuracy of the different flavors.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Thank you for mentioning that, Donnie. Yeah, so that's the thing, that we are offering 100% human generated services. So we do not involve any AI or any machine transcription. That makes us actually different from other competitors. The reason why we're doing that still, because we believe that human transcription are higher quality and actually can transcribe even like specific terminology. So it's quite really important in medical industry, in IT industry, in legal industry, because they actually store those materials within I don't know, their work, or they need to present it somewhere, and sometimes they don't have time to review those files, or do they internally transcription, or let's say if they do with the AI, they cannot be guaranteed that the quality will be good. And with us, they can just come and upload their file, and when they get the result, they don't need to be worried about the quality, because they can already present that file to someone, or actually store it somewhere and be sure about the quality and the formatting. So therefore, definitely clients can trust us and work with us on a long term, and be sure about the documentation that they receive.
Got it. Excellent. That sounds great. Rand, I'd like to switch gears a little to ADA compliance, if you will. I'm not sure your total expertise in that area, but we hear from customers a lot of times where they're kind of trying to protect themselves. Yes, they need to provide this service to make sure everything's accessible, but there's different things, with ADA compliance. Can you touch on any of those things? Are people at risk, or providers at risk of not having a accessible website or webinar or what have you?
Yes, I would love to share some knowledge about a little bit the compliance requirements. So in the US, there is the AD, American Disability Act. This basically enforces that websites will be accessible for people with disabilities. It really depends on the size of the organization or the type of the organization in order to be compliant. Um, what is important that people will make sure, no matter what is the compliance requirement, is to make sure that the website is following the WCAG 2.1 AA requirements. This is the main guideline for web accessibility. And if you will follow this guideline, you will make sure that the website is accessible. If we want in high level, just to explain, so first we need to make sure that every element in the website is accessible, as we talked about the keyboard. But again, in order to make a website accessible, you need to advise with an expert. It's not something that everyone can do. You need knowledge, you need experience of doing it. And I highly advise to meet and learn and meet with companies in order to understand what is the right approach for your business to become compliant. It's not something that you can click off a button and you will become compliant, unfortunately.
Is WCAG, is that kind of a worldwide standard where you're saying if
Yeah,
you comply with that, you'll be good for ADA, which is just the United States? Okay, that
yeah,
makes
it
a lot of
will be
sense.
good not for just the USA, for a lot of countries, because all countries are following the same guideline, like different type of level, but the idea that everyone are following it the same. And the goal is that people, if people will follow it, websites will be accessible and usable for all people, not just for a specific type of group of people. This
That
guideline
makes
makes
sense.
sure that everyone can, this basically makes sure that everyone can access and enjoy like everyone else.
Wonderful. But I think, your point that it's not a one size fits all approach, that every company, every website, every webinar is a little bit different. And so having a little bit of expertise or consulting ability behind that from companies like yours, from partners like Gotranscript on the transcript and captioning side is important. And we take that to heart at Beacon Live. We know we don't know it all, and that's why we rely on our partners to help us and help our customers be successful. Ren, that's a great answer. Thanks. Thinking a little bit forward, who are some personas of folks that might need accessibility type services? You've given some examples when you and I have discussed in the past. Who are folks like that in different examples?
Okay, thank you. So the first persona are blind people. Blind people use screen readers and they are not using a mouse. So we need to make sure that websites are accessible for them and they can easily navigate them and enjoy them with the screen reader. We don't need to provide them a screen reader, same as we don't need to provide a wheelchair to a person who come to a store. The second persona is a person with a motor impairment. So usually the people cannot also activate the mouse. So if you make a website accessible for a blind person, you also make it accessible for someone who can't use a mouse. The third persona is someone with a cognitive or learning disability. So we need to make sure that websites are easy to understand. We're using easy and language, the fonts are readable, that everyone can basically enjoy the website, not just people with cognitive disability. And the fourth person, people that Valerie also focused, is that people that has a hearing impairment. So they need captions in order to enjoy videos or audio. And the fifth group, which is people that are we talked people think that blind people or people that it's all people, but there is a group for blind people and there's people with visual that are visual impaired. So basically they see but they don't see 100%. So some people can use a mouse and they use the web very similar to everyone, but they need more contrast. So they need, in order to see all the elements in the right way, They need to make sure we need to make sure that website using the right contrast between elements. So the easiest, let's say that black on white will be the easiest for them to enjoy. They usually when they come for a website, they use their own tools to improve their experience. This is the 5 typical personas. But the goal, once you make it accessible for 5, you're basically making the website accessible for everyone, not just people with disabilities. And this is one of the most important things about accessibility, that when making your website accessible for them, you're making a better user experience for everyone. It is like the right way to build a website, and it is the right way to, at the end, generate more business. And it's not just the right thing to do, it is the law in some cases. So do a web accessibility.
Man, that's a great summary. I'm really glad that you were able to kind of articulate the 5 different personas, but more importantly, the fact that you just make it accessible, and then it's going to be easier for all of us to consume, and then better for the website in the end. So that's really great. All right. Well, that was a really great summary again, Ran and Valerie. Thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time to do this. If anybody who's watching our webinar needs more information, it's here on your screen for equality.ai is their website. And you have Ran's email address. Gotranscript.com is Valerie's website and her email address right there. And then beaconlive.com is our website and my email address as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, learn a little bit more about web accessibility and how it affects you, your website, and your customers as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day.